Welcome to the 1,000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was the 614th night, she continued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the Maghribi said to Judar, Go on to the 4th door, and knock on it, and it shall be opened to thee, when there come forth to thee a lion, huge of bulk, which will rush upon thee, opening his mouth, and showing he hath a mind to devour thee. Have no fear of him, neither flee from him, but when he cometh to thee, give him thy hand, and he will bite at it, and fall down straightway, nor shall aught of hurt betide thee. Then enter the 5th door, where thou shalt find a black slave, who will say to thee, Who art thou? Say, I am Judar, and he will answer, If thou be that man, open the 6th door. Then do thou go up to the door, and say, O Issa, tell Musa to open the door. Whereupon the door will fly open, and thou wilt see 2 dragons, one on the left hand, and another on the right, which will open their mouths and fly at thee both at once. Do not put forth to them both hands, as they will bite each hand and fall down dead. But, an thou resist them, they will slay thee. Then go to the 7th door and knock, whereupon there will come forth to thee thy mother, and say, Welcome, O my son, come that I may greet thee. But do thou reply, Hold off from me, and doff thy clothes. And she will make answer, O my son, I am thy mother, and I have a claim upon thee for suckling thee and for rearing thee. How then wouldst thou strip me naked? Then do thou say, Except thou put off thy clothes, I will kill thee. And look to thy right, where thou shalt see a sword hanging up. Take it, and draw it upon her, saying, Strip. Whereupon she will wheedle thee, and humble herself to thee, but have no ruth on her, but be beguiled. As often as she putteth off aught, say to her, Off with the lave. Nor do thou cease to threaten her with death, till she doff all that is upon her, and fall down, whereupon the enchantment will be dissolved, and the charms undone, and thou wilt be safe as to thy life. Then enter the hall of the treasure, where thou wilt see the gold lying in heaps, but pay no heed to aught thereof, but look to a closet at the upper end of the hall, where thou wilt see a curtain drawn. Draw back the curtain, and thou wilt descry the enchanter, all Sarmadal, lying upon a couch of gold, with something at his head, round and shining like the moon, which is the celestial planisphere. He is baldricked with the sword, on his finger is the ring, and about his neck hangs a chain to which hangs the coal file. Bring me the 4 talismans, and beware lest thou forget aught of that which I have told thee, or thou wilt repent, and there will be fear for thee. And he repeated the directions a 2nd and a 3rd and a 4th time, till Judar said, I have them by heart. But who may face all these enchantments that thou namest, and endure against these mighty terrors? Replied the Moor, O Judar, fear not, for they are semblances without life. And he went on to hearten him, until he said, I put my trust in Allah. Then Abd al-Samad threw perfumes on the chafing dish, and addressed himself to reciting conjurations for a time, when behold, the water disappeared and uncovered the riverbed, and discovered the door of the treasure, whereupon Judar went down to the door and knocked. Therewith he heard a voice saying, Who knocketh at the door of the treasure, unknowing how to solve the secrets? Quoth he, I am Judar, son of Omar. Whereupon the door opened, and there came forth a figure with a drawn sword, who said to him, Stretch forth thy neck. So he stretched forth his neck, and the species smote him, and fell down lifeless. Then he went on to the 2nd door, and did the like, nor did he cease to do thus, till he had done the enchantments of the first 6 doors, and came to the 7th door, whence there issued forth to him his mother, saying, I salute thee, O my son. He asked, What art thou? And she answered, O my son, I am thy mother, who bare thee 9 months, and suckled thee, and reared thee. Quoth he, Put off thy clothes. Quoth she, Thou art my son, how wouldst thou strip me naked? But he said, Strip, or I will strike off thy head with this sword. And he stretched out his hand to the brand, and drew it upon her, saying, Except thou strip, I will slay thee. Then the strife became long between them, and as often as he redoubled on his threats, she put off something of her clothes, and said to him, Doff the rest, with many menaces, while she removed each article slowly, and kept saying, O my son, thou hast disappointed my fosterage of thee. till she had nothing left but her petticoat trousers. Then she said, "Oh, my son, is thy heart stone? Wilt thou dishonor me by discovering my shame? Indeed, this is unlawful, O my son." And he answered, "Thou sayest sooth, put not off thy trousers." At once, as he uttered these words, she cried out, "He hath made default, beat him." Whereupon they fell upon him, blows like raindrops, and the servants of the treasure flocked to him and dealt him a tunding which he forgot not in all his days. After which they thrust him forth and threw him down without the treasure, and the hoard doors closed of themselves, whilst the water of the rivers returned to their bed. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 615th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when the servants of the treasure beat Judar and cast him out, and the hoard doors closed of themselves, whilst the river waters returned to their bed, Abd al-Samad the Maghribi took Judar up in haste, and repeated conjurations over him till he came to his senses, but still dazed as with drink, when he asked him, "What hast thou done, O wretch?" Answered Judar, "O my brother, I undid all the opposing enchantments till I came to my mother, and there befell between her and myself a long contention. But I made her doff her clothes, O my brother, till but her trousers remained upon her, and she said to me, 'Do not dishonor me, for to discover one's shame is forbidden.' So I left her trousers out of pity, and behold, she cried out and said, 'He hath made default, beat him.' Whereupon there came out upon me folk whence I know not, and tunding me with a belabouring which was a sister of death, thrust me forth, nor do I know what befell me after this." Quoth the Moor, "Did I not warn thee not to swerve from my directions? Verily, thou hast injured me, and hast injured thyself. For if thou hast made her take off her petticoat trousers, we had won to our wish. But now thou must abide with me till this day next year." Then he cried out to the two slaves, who struck the tent forthright, and loaded it on the beasts, when they were absent a while, and presently returned with 2 mules, and the twain mounted, and rode back to the city of Fez, where Judar tarried with the Maghribi, eating well, and drinking well, and donning a grand dress every day, till the year was ended, and the anniversary day dawned. Then the Moor said to him, "Come with me, for this is the appointed day." And Judar said, "'Tis well." So the Maghribi carried him without the city, where they found the 2 slaves with the mules, and rode on till they reached the river. Here the slaves pitched the tent and furnished it, and the Moor brought forth the tray of food, and they ate the morning meal. After which Abd al-Samad brought out the wand and the tablets as before, and kindling the fire in the chafing dish, made ready the incense. Then he said, "O Judar, I wish to renew my charge to thee." "O my lord the pilgrim," replied he, "if I have forgotten the bastinado, I have forgotten the injunctions." Asked the Moor, "Dost thou indeed remember them?" And he answered, "Yes." Quoth the Moor, "Keep thy wits, and think not that the woman is thy mother. Nay, she is but an enchantment in her semblance, whose purpose is to find thee defaulting. Thou camest off alive the first time, but an thou trip this time, they will slay thee." Quoth Judar, "If I slip this time, I deserve to be burnt of them." Then Abd al-Samad cast the perfumes into the fire, and recited the conjurations till the river dried up. Whereupon Judar descended and knocked. The door opened, and he entered and undid the several enchantments, till he came to the 7th door, and the semblance of his mother appeared before him, saying, "Welcome, O my son." But he said to her, "How am I thy son, O accursed? Strip!" And she began to wheedle him, and put off garment after garment, till only her trousers remained, and he said to her, "Strip, O accursed one." So she put off her trousers, and became a body without a soul. Then he entered the hall of the treasures, where he saw gold lying in heaps, but paid no attention to it, and passed on to the closet at the upper end, where he saw the enchanter, Al-Samardal, lying on a couch of gold, baldricked with a sword, and the ring on his finger, the coal vial on his breast, and the celestial planisphere hanging over his head. So he loosed the sword, and taking the ring, the coal vial, and the planisphere, went forth, when behold, a band of music sounded for him, and the servants of the treasure cried out, saying, Mayest thou be assained with that which thou hast gained, O Judar. Nor did the music leave sounding till he came forth of the treasure to the Maghribi, who gave up his conjurations and fumigations, and rose up and embraced him and saluted him. Then Judar made over to him the 4 hoarded talismans, and he took them and cried out to the slaves, who carried away the tent and brought the mules. So they mounted and returned to Fez city, where the Moor fetched the saddlebags and brought forth dish after dish of meat, till the tray was full, and said, O my brother, O Judar, eat. So he ate till he was satisfied, when the Moor emptied what remained of the meats and the other dishes, and returned the empty platters to the saddlebags. Then quoth he, O Judar, thou hast left home and native land on our account, and thou hast accomplished our dearest desire. Wherefore thou hast a right to require a reward of us. Ask therefore what thou wilt. It is Almighty Allah who giveth unto thee by our means. Ask thy will, and be not ashamed, for thou art deserving. O my lord, quoth Judar, I ask first of Allah the Most High, and then of thee, that thou give me yonder saddlebags. So the Maghribi called for them, and gave them to him, saying, Take them, for they are thy due. And if thou hast asked me of aught else instead, I'd have given it to thee. Eat from them, thou and thy family. But, my poor fellow, these will not profit thee, save by way of provant. And thou hast wearied thyself with us, and we promise to send thee home rejoicing. So we will join to these other saddlebags full of gold and gems, and forward thee back to thy native land, where thou shalt become a gentleman and a merchant, and clothe thyself and thy family. Nor wilt thou want ready money for thine expenditure. And know that the matter of using our gift is on this wise. Put thy hand therein, and say, O servant of these saddlebags, I conjure thee by the virtue of the mighty names which have power over thee, bring me such a dish. And he will bring thee whatsoever thou askest, though thou shouldest call for 1,000 different dishes a day. So saying, he filled them a second pair of saddlebags, half with gold, and half with gems and precious stones, and sending for a slave and a mule, said to him, Mount this mule, and the slave shall go before thee, and show thee the way, till thou come to the door of thy house. Where do thou take the 2 pair of saddlebags, and give him the mule, that he may bring them back to me. But admit none into thy secret, and so we command thee to Allah. May the Almighty increase thy good, replied Judar, and laying the 2 pairs of saddlebags on the mule's back, mounted and sent him forth. The slave went on before him, and the mule followed him all that day and night, and on the morrow he entered Cairo by the gate of Victory, where he saw his mother seated, saying, Alms, for the love of Allah! At the sight he well nigh lost his wit, and alighting threw himself upon her, and when she saw him she wept. Then he mounted her on the mule, and walked by her stirrup till they came to the house, where he set her down, and taking the saddlebags, left the she-mule to the slave, who led her away and returned with her to his master, for that both slave and mule were devils. As for Judar, he was grievous to him that his mother should beg. So when they were in the house, he asked her, O my mother, are my brothers well? And she answered, They are both well. Quoth he, Why dost thou beg by the wayside? Quoth she, Because I am hungry, O my son, and he, before I went away, I gave thee 100 dinars one day, and the like the next day, and 1,000 on the day of my departure. O my son, they cheated me, and took the money from me, saying, We will buy goods with it. Then they drove me away, and I fell to begging by the wayside for the stress of hunger. O my mother, no harm shall befall thee, now I am come. So hear no concerns, for these saddlebags are full of gold and gems, and good aboundeth with me. Verily, thou art blessed, O my son. Allah accept of thee, and increase thee of his bounties. Go, O my son, fetch us some victuals, for I slept not last night for excess of hunger, having gone to bed supperless. Welcome to thee, O my mother. Call for what thou wilt to eat, and I will set it before thee this moment. For I have no occasion to buy from the market, nor need I any to cook. O my son, I see not with thee. I have with me in these saddlebags all manner of meats. Oh, my son, whatever is ready will serve to stay the hunger. True, when there is no choice, men are content with the smallest thing, but where there is plenty, they like to eat what is good. And I have abundance, so call for what thou hast in mind. Oh, my son, give me some hot bread and a slice of cheese. O my mother, this befitteth not thy condition. Then give me to eat of that which besetteth my case, for thou knowest it. O my mother, rejoined he, what suit thine estate are browned meat, and roast chicken, and peppered rice, and it becometh thy rank to eat of sausages, and stuffed cucumbers, and stuffed lamb, and stuffed ribs of mutton, and vermicelli with broken almonds, and nuts, and honey, and sugar, and fritters, and almond cakes. But she thought he was laughing at her and making mock of her. So she said to him, Yeah, what is come to thee? Dost thou dream, or art thou daft? Asked he, Why deemest that I am mad? And she answered, Because thou namest to me all manner of rich dishes. Who can avail unto their price, and who knoweth how to dress them? Quoth he, By my life, thou shalt eat of all that I have named to thee, and that at once. And quoth she, I see nothing. And he, Bring me the saddlebags. So she fetched them, and feeling them, found them empty. However, she laid them before him, and he thrust in his hand, and pulled out a dish, and then another dish, till he set before her all that he had named. Whereupon asked she, O my son, the saddlebags are small, and moreover they were empty, yet hast thou taken thereof all these dishes. Where then were they all? And he answered, O my mother, know that these saddlebags which the Moor gave me are enchanted, and they have a servant whom, if one desire aught, he hath but to conjure by the names which command him, saying, O servant of these saddlebags, bring me such a dish, and he will bring it. Quoth his mother, And may I put out my hand and ask of him? Quoth he, Do so. So she stretched out her hands and said, O servant of the saddlebags, by the virtue of the names which command thee, bring me stuffed ribs. Then she thrust in her hand, and found a dish containing delicate stuffed ribs of lamb. So she took it out, and called for bread, and what else she had in mind. After which Judar said to her, O my mother, when thou hast made an end of eating, empty what is left of the food into dishes other than these, and restore the empty platters to the saddlebags carefully. So she rose, and laid up in a safe place, and she, Look, O mother of mine, that thou keep this secret, added he, and whenever thou hast a mind to aught, take it forth of the saddlebags, and give alms, and feed my brothers, whether I be present or absent. Then he fell to eating with her, and behold, while they were thus occupied, in came his two brothers, whom a son of the quarter had apprised of his return, saying, Your brother has come back, riding on a she-mule with a slave before him, and wearing a dress that hath not its like. So they said to each other, Would to heaven we had not evilly entreated our mother. There is no hope but that she will surely tell him how we did by her, and then, our disgrace with him. But one of the twain said, Our mother is soft-hearted, and if she tell him our brother is yet tenderer over us than she, and given we excuse ourselves to him, he will accept our excuse. So they went in to him, and he rose to them, and saluting them with the friendliest salutation, bade them sit down and eat. So they ate till they were satisfied, for they were weak with hunger. After which Judar said to them, O my brothers, take what is left, and distribute it to the poor and needy. O brother, replied they, let us keep it to sup withal. But he answered, When supper time cometh, ye shall have more than this. So they took the rest of the victuals, and going out gave it to every poor man who passed by them, saying, Take and eat, till nothing was left. Then they brought back the dishes, and Judar said to his mother, Put them in the saddlebags. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 616th night, she continued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Judar and his brothers had finished their undermeal, said to his mother, Put back the platters in the saddlebag. And when it was evening time, he entered the saloon, and took forth of the saddlebags a table of 40 dishes, After which he went up to the upper room, and sitting down between his brothers, said to his mother, "Bring the supper." So he went down to the saloon, and finding there the dishes ready, laid the tray, and brought up the 40 dishes one after another. Then they ate the evening meal, and when they were done, Judar said to his brothers, "Take and feed the poor and needy." So they took what was left, and gave alms thereof, and presently he brought forth to them sweet meats, whereof they ate, and what was left he bade them give it to the neighbors. On the morrow they brake their fast after the same fashion, and thus they fared 10 days, at the end of which time quoth Salim to Salim, "How cometh that our brother setteth before us a banquet in the morning, a banquet at noon, and a banquet at sundown, besides sweetmeats late at night, and all that is left he giveth to the poor? Verily, this is the fashion of sultans, yet we never see him by aught, and he hath neither kitchener nor kitchen, nor doth he light a fire. Whence hath he this great plenty? Hast thou not a mind to discover the cause of all this?" Quoth Salim, "By Allah, I know not, but knowest that any one who will tell us the truth of the case." Quoth Salim, "None will tell us save our mother." So they laid a plot, and repairing to their mother one day in their brother's absence, said, "O our mother, we are hungry." Replied she, "Rejoice, for ye shall presently be satisfied." And going into the saloon, sought of the servant of the saddlebags hot meats, which she took out and set before her sons. "O our mother," cried they, "this meat is hot, and yet hast thou not cooked, neither kindled a fire." Quoth she, "It cometh from the saddlebags." And quoth they, "What manner of thing be these saddlebags?" She answered, "They are enchanted, and the required is produced by the charm." And she then told her sons their virtue, enjoining them to their secrecy. Said they, "The secret shall be kept, O our mother, but teach us the manner of this." So she taught them the fashion thereof, and they fell to putting their hands into the saddlebags, and taking forth whatever they had in mind of. But Judar knew not of this. Then quoth Salim and privily to Salim, "O my brother, how long shall we abide with Judar's servant wives, and eat of his alms? Shall we not contrive to get the saddlebags from him, and make off with him? And how shall we make shift to do this?" "We will sell him to the galleys." "Well, how shall we do that?" "We two will go to the Raz, the chief captain of the Sea of Suez, and bid him to an entertainment with the two of us in his company. What I say to Judar, do thou confirm, and at the end of the night I will show you thee what I will do." So they agreed upon the sale of their brother, and going to the captain's quarters, said to him, "O Ras, we have come to thee on an errand that will please thee." "Good," answered he. And they continued, "We two are brethren, and we have a third brother, a lewd fellow, and a good for nothing. When our father died, he left us some money which he shared amongst us, and he took his part of the inheritance and wasted it in frowardness and debauchery, till he was reduced to poverty. When he came upon us and cited us before the magistrates, avouching that we had taken his good and that of his fathers, and we disputed the matter before the judges and lost the money. Then he waited a while and attacked us a second time, until we brought us to a beggary. Nor will he desist from us, and we are utterly weary of him. Wherefore we would have thee buy him of us." Quoth the captain, "Can you cast about with him and bring him to me here? If so, I will pack him off on the sea forthright." Quoth he, "We cannot manage to bring him here, but be thou our guest this night, and bring with thee 2 of thy men, not one more, and when he is asleep, we will aid one another to fall upon him, we 5, and seize and gag him. Then shalt thou carry him forth out of the house under cover of the night, and after do thou with him as thou wilt." Rejoined the captain, "With all my heart. Will ye sell him for 40 dinars? And they, "Yes. Come after nightfall to such a street by such a mosque, and thou shalt find one of us awaiting thee." And he replied, "Now be off." Then they repaired to Judar, and awaited a while, after which Salim went up to him and kissed his hand. Quoth Judar, "What ails thee, O my brother?" And he made answer, saying, "Know that I have a friend, who hath many a time bidden me to his house in thine absence, and hath ever hospitably entreated me, and I home 1,000 kindnesses, as my brother here wotteth. I met him today, and he invited me to his house, but I said to him, I cannot leave my brother Judar. Quoth he, Bring him with thee. And quoth I, He will not consent to that, but if you will be my guest, thou and thy brothers, for his brothers were sitting with him, and I invited them, thinking that they would refuse. But he accepted my invitation for all of them, saying, Look for me at the gate of the little mosque, and I will come to thee, I and my brothers. And now I fear they will come, and I am ashamed before thee. So wilt thou hearten my heart, and entertain them this night? For thy good is abundant, O my brother. Or, if thou consent not, give me to leave to take them into the neighbor's house. Replied Judar, Why shouldest thou carry them into the neighbor's houses? Is our house then so strait to have we not withal to give them supper? Shame on thee to consult me. Thou hast but to call for what thou needest, and have rich viands and sweetmeats and to spare. Whenever thou bringest home folk in my absence, ask thy mother, and she will set before thee victuals more than enough. Go and fetch them. Blessings have descended upon us through such guests. So Salim kissed his hands, and going forth, sat at the gate of the little mosque till after sundown. And when the captain and his men came up to him, he carried them to the house. When Judar saw them, he bade them welcome, and seated them, and made friends with them, knowing not what the future had in store for him at their hands. Then he called to his mother for supper, and she fell to taking dishes out of the saddlebags, whilst he said, Bring such and such meats, till she had set 40 different dishes before them. They ate their sufficiency, and the tray was taken away, the sailors thinking the while that this liberal entertainment came from Salim. When a third part of the night was past, Judar set sweetmeats before them, and Salim served them, whilst his two brothers sat with the guests, till they sought to sleep. Accordingly, Judar lay down, and the others with him, who waited till he was asleep, when they fell upon him together, and gagging and pinioning him before he was awake, carried him forth out of the house under the cover of night. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 617th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that they seized Judar, and carried him forth of the house under cover of night, at once packed him off to Suez, where they shackled him, and set him to work as a galley slave, and he ceased not to serve thus in silence a whole year. So far concerning Judar, but as for his brothers, they went in next morning to his mother, and said to her, O our mother, our brother Judar is not awake. Said she, Do ye wake him? Asked they, Where lieth he? And she answered, With the guests. They rejoined, Happily he went away with them whilst we slept, O mother. It would seem that he had tasted of strangerhood, and yearned to get at hidden hoards. For we heard him a talk with the Moors, and they said to him, We will take thee with us, and open the treasures to thee. She inquired, Hath he then been in company with Moors? And they replied, saying, Were they not our guests yesterday night? And she said, Most like he hath gone with them, but Allah will direct him on the right way, for there is a blessing upon him, and he will surely come back with great good. But she wept, for it was grievous to her to be departed from her son. Then said they to her, O accursed woman, dost thou love Judar with all this love, whilst as for us, whether we be absent or present, thou neither joyest in us, nor sorrowest for us? Are we not thy sons, even as Judar is thy son? She said, Ye are indeed my sons, but ye are reprobates, who deserve no favour of me. Since your father's death, I have never seen any good in you. Whilst as for Judar, I have had abundant good of him, and he hath heartened my heart, and entreated me with honour. Wherefore it behoveth me to weep for him, because of his kindness to me and to you. When they heard this, they abused her, and they beat her, after which they sought for the saddlebags till they found the 2 pairs, and took the enchanted one, and all the gold from one pouch, and the jewels from the other of the unenchanted one, saying, This was our father's good. Said their mother, No, not so, by Allah, it belongeth to your brother Judar, who brought it from the land of the Maghribi. said they. Thou liest. It was our father's property, and we will dispose of it as we please. Then they divided the gold and the jewels between them, but brabble arose between them concerning the enchanted saddlebags. Selim said, I will have them, and Selim saying, I will take them. And they came to high words. Then she said, O my sons, ye have divided the gold and the jewels, but this may not be divided, nor can its value be made up in money, and if it be cut in twain, its spell will be voided. So leave it with me, and I will give you to eat from it all times, and be content to take a morsel with you. If ye allow me aught to clothe me, 'twill be our bounty, and each of you shall traffic with the folk for himself. Ye are my sons, and I am your mother. Wherefore let us abide as we are, lest your brother come back and we be disgraced. But they accepted not her words, and passed the night wrangling with each other. Now it chanced that a janissary of the king's guards was a guest in the house adjoining Judar's, and heard them through the open window. So he looked out, and listening heard all the angry words that passed between them, and saw the division of the spoil. Next morning he presented himself before the king of Egypt, whose name was Shams al-Dulala, and told him all that he had heard. Whereupon he sent for Judar's brothers, and put them to question till they confessed. And he took the 2 pair of saddlebags from them, and clapped them in prison, appointing a sufficient daily allowance to their mother. Now as regards Judar, he abode an entire year in service at Suez, till one day, being in a ship bound on a voyage over the sea, a wind arose against them and cast the vessel upon a rock projecting from a mountain, where she broke up, and all on board were drowned, and none got ashore save Judar. As soon as he landed and fared on inland, till he reached an encampment of a Badawai, who questioned him of his case, and he told them that he had been a sailor. Now there was in camp a merchant, a native of Judar, who took pity on him and said to him, Wilt thou take service with me, O Egyptian? And I will clothe thee and carry thee with me to Judea. So Judar took service with him, and accompanied him to Judea, where he showed him much favor. After a while, his master the merchant set out on a pilgrimage to Mecca, taking Judar with him. And when they reached the city, the Kareen repaired to the Harem temple to circumambulate the Kaaba. As he was making the prescribed circuits, he suddenly saw his friend Abd al-Samad the Moor doing the like. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. And so do I cease the telling of my tales for today, till it be morrow.